Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. For Duggar family latest news update, please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon. Title: Twice the Blessing. Jinger Duggar Volo's Double Surprise. The early spring sun filtered gently through the windows of the Volo family home in Los Angeles, California. The house, modestly elegant and filled with laughter, books, and faith, stood still in a rare moment of silence. Jinger Duggar Volo sat on the couch, her hands resting gently over her stomach. Her thoughts were racing, her heart pounding with a cocktail of excitement and disbelief. She had something to tell Jeremy, something incredible, something that would change everything again. It had been a quiet season in her life lately. After years in the public eye, Jinger had stepped back, choosing to focus on her family, her spiritual journey, and personal healing. Her book had been a cathartic release, her interviews were behind her, and she finally felt like she was breathing fresh air after escaping the tight world of rules and rituals. But this was something else. This was new life, and not just one. Jinger was pregnant with twins. It had started with exhaustion, the kind of exhaustion she remembered from her first pregnancy with Felicity and later Evangeline. But this felt stronger, heavier. At first, she chalked it up to parenting two daughters while managing a small podcast and working on her blog. But something deep inside whispered that this was different. A routine checkup had led to a second ultrasound, and then, the moment the nurse had smiled with raised eyebrows and said, "Well," there's a surprise. Jinger's world had tilted on its axis. Twins, she had gasped, laughing and crying all at once. Identical, from what we can tell, the technician had added, pointing to the two small forms on the screen. The news had settled over her like a warm blanket and a thunderclap all at once. Joy, fear, wonder, all colliding. Now, she waited for Jeremy to come home. He'd been at the university all morning, preparing for a seminary lecture. He was a calm man, deeply thoughtful, rarely surprised by anything. But Jinger knew this would leave him speechless. The front door clicked. She sat up straight, the sonogram photo clutched in her hand like a secret letter. "Hey babe," Jeremy's voice echoed down the hallway as he slipped off his shoes. "In here," she called, her voice steady but shaking underneath. He entered, smiling as always when he saw her. "Everything okay?" She stood, took his hand, and pressed the picture into his palm. "What's this?" he asked, then looked down. Silence. "Then, are these two heartbeats?" Jinger said softly. "We're having twins." His eyes widened. "Twins, as in two babies, at once?" Jinger nodded, her eyes moist. "Are you okay?" Jeremy dropped to the couch, still staring at the photo. "Okay, Jinger, I'm stunned. This is incredible." They laughed, cried, prayed together. Then came the planning. In the weeks that followed, the Volos told no one. Not her siblings, not her parents, not even close friends. It felt sacred, a secret blessing. Jinger journaled daily, writing to her unborn babies, letters she planned to give them when they were older. She wrote about her fears of repeating old patterns, about breaking generational cycles, about how much she already loved them. She and Jeremy spoke about names, about sleep schedules, about double strollers and room rearrangements. And then came the day to share the news. The Volos didn't go for a dramatic social media post or a public video announcement. They planned an intimate gathering in their backyard with family and close friends, under twinkling lights and soft music. The table was set with pastel florals, and a simple cake waited under a glass dome. Her sisters flew in, Jana, Joy, and even Jill, with whom things had been tense for a while. But the joy of new life softened everything. Jinger stood to speak, Jeremy holding her hand. "We're so thankful for all of you," she began, "and we're excited to share that our family is growing again." Applause, cheers. "But there's more," she said, her voice catching. Jeremy smiled. "We're not just adding one baby." The crowd paused. "We're having twins," Jinger said. Gasps, tears, laughter. Joy swept the group like a spring breeze. Michelle Duggar cried, clutching Jinger close. "Twins. "Oh, sweetheart, what a blessing. I remember with Jenna and John David double the diapers, but double the joy." Jill stood quietly by, then stepped forward and hugged her sister. "You're going to do amazing," she whispered. "You're breaking chains and building something beautiful." Jinger clung to her, eyes full. That night, long after the last guest had gone, Jeremy and Jinger sat on the porch, the stars glittering above. "Do you think we're ready for this?" she asked. Nogi said, laughing, "But we weren't ready the first time either. God showed up then. He'll show up now." Jinger rested her head on his shoulder. "It's strange. I used to think having a big family meant losing yourself. Now I think it means finding new pieces of yourself, the kind that only love can reveal." He kissed her forehead. "You've grown, Jinge. We both have." Inside, Felicity and Evangeline slept soundly, unaware that soon their world would expand in the most miraculous way. 2 new Volos, 2 tiny hearts, 2 lives destined to be raised with more freedom, faith, and love than Jinger ever dreamed was possible. Epilogue. 3 months later, Jinger posted a photo to Instagram. It was simple: 2 small pairs of shoes, 1 pink and 1 gray, lined up next to a board that read, "Twice the noise, twice the love. Volo twins arriving this fall." The world rejoiced. Fans, followers, even former critics poured in messages of support. But for Jinger, the greatest joy wasn't the comments, or the likes, or even the legacy. It was the quiet sound of 2 hearts beating inside her, beating in rhythm with hope, with grace, with freedom. Jim Bob Duggar had always considered his house more than just a structure. Nestled in the heart of Tontitown, Arkansas, the sprawling 2-story home with its polished oak floors, cozy nooks, and towering ceilings was not only a roof over his family's heads. It was a monument to the life he had built, brick by brick, child by child. But on a quiet November night, the sanctuary he had built for his 19 children turned into a furnace of memories, smoke, and mystery. It started with a flicker. Michelle was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of beef stew. The twins, Jedediah and Jeremiah, were playing chess in the dining room. Jessa was reading aloud to the younger girls, while Jim Bob was on the back porch, admiring the sunset with a mug of coffee. Life was peaceful in the Duggar household, a rare calm between the often chaotic rhythms of homeschooling, chores, and endless rounds of laundry. Then the lights flickered. A slight dimming, a surge. Michelle glanced up. Power issue. Jim Bob stepped back inside, frowning. "I'll check the fuse box." He didn't make it that far. An acrid smell curled through the air, burning plastic and dry wood. In seconds, the flickering lights were forgotten. Smoke began to seep out from beneath the laundry room door. Michelle screamed. The twins dropped their chess. The Duggars had practiced fire drills before. Jim Bob was always cautious with so many children under one roof. But this was different. The flames licked up the walls like they were fueled by something far more sinister than just faulty wiring. "Get everyone out," Jim Bob roared. Josh grabbed a fire extinguisher and tried to spray the base of the flames in the laundry room, but it was futile. Children poured out of bedrooms. Michelle clutched the baby, Josie, to her chest as she ran outside. Jana and Jill helped the younger ones out of windows. Jim Bob counted heads in the yard, shouting names. 1920 paused. "Where's Justin?" The boy was nowhere to be seen. Jim Bob turned back toward the house, now belching black smoke from every window. "I'm going in," he barked. Michelle grabbed his arm, tears streaming down her face. Jim Bob, "You can't," but he tore free and ran into the inferno. Inside was chaos. The air was thick and biting. Walls Jim Bob had painted himself decades ago were now ash and agony. He moved by instinct, using muscle memory to find Justin's room. Flames snapped at his sleeves as he burst through the smoke. There, coughing, frightened, was Justin, curled in a corner, unable to open the jammed window. Jim Bob scooped him up. "I got you, son." Through falling beams and a collapsing staircase, they made it out, collapsing into the grass as firefighters arrived. sirens screaming into the night. The Duggar home was gone. The next morning, nothing stood but a skeleton of scorched timber. News vans lined the street. Reporters whispered about the blaze, how quickly it consumed the house. Some hinted at arson. Others blamed the outdated electrical system. Jim Bob stood silently beside the wreckage, arms folded, eyes red. Then the fire chief approached him, face grave. "Mr. Duggar, we need to talk." Jim Bob looked up, heart sinking. The fire chief led Jim Bob to a section of the rubble carefully taped off. "We've combed through the ashes." "This wasn't an electrical fire," the chief said. "There are signs of accelerants kerosene, specifically, and a burned-out gas can." Jim Bob frowned. "Are you saying someone set this fire on purpose?" The fire chief nodded. "Do you have any enemies, anyone who might want to hurt you or your family?" Jim Bob swallowed hard. "No one I can think of," but something flickered behind his eyes. A memory, a name years ago, a land deal gone sour, a man named Eli McCormick. Eli McCormick had once been Jim Bob's business partner. Together, they'd planned to turn a stretch of farmland into a Christian retreat. But Eli wanted to cut corners, Jim Bob didn't. The deal fell apart. Lawsuits followed. Eli lost everything. Rumors swirled that he blamed Jim Bob. Jim Bob hadn't heard from him in years. Until now, that night, as the Duggars huddled in a borrowed RV, Jim Bob's phone lit up with a blocked number. A voice came through, raspy and slow. "Jana Duggar sparks pregnancy speculation in new travel photos." Jana Duggar was not like other girls in her village. While most children spent their days playing by the river or climbing mango trees, Jana loved to explore places no one else dared to go. Her curiosity was endless, and her heart was full of dreams. One sunny morning, while walking through the old part of the village, she noticed a strange path behind the abandoned library. Covered in vines and half hidden by tall grass, it looked like it hadn't been walked on in years. Without a second thought, Jana pushed aside the vines and followed the narrow trail. It led her to a rusty gate. Beyond it, she saw something magical, a hidden garden filled with colorful flowers, butterflies, and a sparkling fountain in the middle. The garden looked untouched by time. As Jana stepped inside, the air felt different, warmer, peaceful. She spent hours there reading an old book she found under a stone bench. The pages told stories of a secret garden that only opened to those who truly believed in magic. From that day on, Jana visited the hidden garden every afternoon. She watered the plants, talked to the birds, and wrote stories under the shade of the big banyan tree. But she never told anyone about the garden. It was her secret place where imagination came to life. And so Jana Duggar grew up to become a famous writer, the girl who once believed in magic and found a hidden world behind a forgotten gate. Now that Jana Duggar is a married lady, it seems like all that speculation about when she's finally going to tie the knot has now been replaced with a new type of speculation. After new photos surfaced of one of Jana's most recent travel adventures, 19 kids and counting fans are wondering more than ever if she's expecting. In a post that Jinger Duggar recently shared on Instagram, she gave fans an update on what happened when sisters Jana and Jessa, along with brother John David and his wife, Abby, came to visit her on the West Coast, presumably to spend time with the family and visit Jinger's new son, baby Finn. But instead of focusing on the good times that the family seemed to be having together, instead, Jinger's followers who saw the post were focused on something else entirely. So many of the comments were all about trying to figure out if Jana is pregnant, and many fans seem totally convinced that she's expecting and just hasn't shared the news publicly yet. Anyone else zooming in to peep and see if Jana is preggo, one person wrote. Another commenter said very definitively Jana is preggers, while another asked, is Jana pregnant yet? Pregnancy rumors have been circulating quite a bit recently. Back in March, Jana first sparked pregnancy rumors when fans were convinced that she looked more swollen in photos she shared of the DIY project. she was working on, along with the fact that, in the same post, she included a clip where she appeared to be holding her stomach. Jana has shared that she does want kids of her own. Though some fans believed that Jana wouldn't want to have children after she spent so much of life helping raise her younger siblings already, she corrected that misconception in an Instagram comment she shared in April. "We would love to have children of our own and are praying that God sends us some soon," she wrote in response to a fan who asked if she and husband Stephen Wisman were planning to start a family soon. Then came Caleb. He was different from the men her parents approved of, kind, thoughtful, but with a quiet rebellion in his spirit. They married in a private ceremony, away from the cameras, the public, and even some of the stricter Duggar rules. For a moment, it felt like freedom. But freedom, she would learn, doesn't come just from love, it comes from truth. Months into the marriage, cracks began to show. Caleb wanted to move to California, start fresh, but Jana found herself torn, caught between the life she'd known and the one she longed for. When disagreements turned into silence and silence into resentment, Jana realized that staying would mean losing herself again. One chilly November morning, with trembling hands and a steady heart, she signed the divorce papers. It was over.